Buongiorno amici, sono Danielle with Learn Italian for Travel with another lesson today on simple prepositions, le preposizioni semplici. Before we begin though, I'd like to say that I'm doing them on my own now. I'm doing the videos in my house and I'll be able to upload them more quickly, and also I won't have to pay these expensive videographers these expensive fees to create these videos for me. So I'm happy about this. And I also noticed in my last video that I said the word okay like 10 million times. And so this video, I'm going to try my best not to say okay at all, because it bothered me when I went back and watched it, how many times I said it. So, non lo dico, I'm not going to say it. Va bene, I can say va bene though, even though it means okay in Italian. So I want to start off by saying that prepositions are pretty difficult. For me, when I was studying Italian, learning Italian, they were one of the most difficult things because there's so many different exceptions to the rule and ways that they are used idiomatically, which you're just going to learn with time. So I'm going to give you a layout of them all, and we're just going to talk about them, the prepositions in their simple form. Because prepositions in Italian, they can also be combined with a definite article, and those are called articulated prepositions. So it would translate to the, at the, in the, on the, all of that, but it's going to actually form a new word. So we'll do that in another video. This video today is just on the prepositions by themselves in their simple form. So we're going to start with these two, a and in. And a and in, you notice with my arrows, they can mean the same thing. So they can both mean to, they can both mean at, and they can both mean in. So you need to learn the ways that you're going to use one and not the other. So starting with a, you're going to use a when you're saying that you're going to or you're at a city. So if I want to say I'm going to Rome, I would say Vado a Roma. If I want to say that you are in San Francisco, I would say sei a San Francisco. So both of those because it's a city. So you can also use a when you're saying that you're going a in its simple form, because a will be articulated very often with the definite article to say to the park or to the restaurant, to the zoo, etc. So in its simple form, just saying a, you're going to use it only in a certain for certain locations. For example, you say a casa, a scuola, a letto. So to home, to school, to bed, you're never going to articulate those. So if I say you are going home, vai a casa. She's going to school, va a scuola. He's going to bed, va a letto. So keep those in the simple form. Also, when you're using certain methods of transportation, only two actually, because most methods of transportation, they'll translate to mean by with the verb andare, but you're going to use a only with two, and it's going to translate to, well, I'll tell you what they are first. If I say we are going by foot, we say andiamo a piedi. Andiamo a piedi means we're going by foot. If I want to say you all are going by horse, I would say andate a cavallo. Andate a cavallo means by horse. So I talk about the verb andare in my video on andare, and I talk about the preposition a, because when you say that you're going to do another activity, another action, the formula is to conjugate the verb andare, follow it with a, and then follow that with an infinitive verb. So when I want to say they are going to eat, I would say vanno a mangiare. Vanno a mangiare. They are going to eat, and that a is inserted in the middle there. Okay, finito. Guardiamo in adesso. In is, like we said, means in, literally, it's the same as in English, or at or to. So where with a we used with cities, in we're going to use with things bigger than a city, like a state, a region, or a country. So if I want to say I'm going to Italy, hopefully this summer, okay, vado in Italia. Vado in Italia. If I want to say you are in Tuscany, sei in Toscana. Say in Toscana because Tuscany is a region, a beautiful region, but it's bigger than a city, so we use in. So we also are going to use in for certain locations around town. So most of them you're going to use a, and it's going to be articulated with the definite article, but some are just going to stay in and they're not going to articulate, but even though they're going to translate to the or at the or in the. So those places around town are in centro, in banca, in biblioteca, in chiesa, in ufficio. And I think that's it. Also, if you're going outside of the city, in campagna, to the countryside. So if I want to say, where are we in our conjugations? We are downtown. I would say, siamo in centro. Siamo in centro. Or if I want to say, you all are going to church. Andate in chiesa. Or if I want to say, they are going to the countryside. Vanno in campagna. Vanno in campagna. Also, if you're going on vacation, you use in. You say in vacanza. So if I want to say, I'm going on vacation, I would say, vado in vacanza. Va bene? Notice how I haven't said okay yet? I'm pretty proud of myself. I almost said it. In then can also be used, well, it's also used with all of the methods of transportation besides a piedi or a cavallo. So that means any other way to get around. So let's list them all. In macchina, by car, or you could also say in auto, automobile, by car. Both of those mean car. In treno, by train. In bicicletta, by bike. In motocicletta, by motorcycle. Motorcycles are pretty popular in Italy. I feel like most Italian men that I know own a motorcycle. So you'll see maybe more motorcycles being driven in Italy. In motorino, which is a smaller version. Notice the ino on the end, so more like a moped, which again are more popular in Italy. Mopeds, and you don't see them that much in the United States. What else do we got? In treno, by train, which is a great way to get around Italy. Train system's not so great in the United States, but when you're in Europe, it's amazing. In aeroplano, by airplane. Am I missing anything? Those are the main ways to get around, right? So you're going to use all of those things. And what else with in? In, you're going to also use to say that you live or that you are on a certain street. So there is a preposition for on. We're going to see that on the next page. It's su. But if you say you're living or you're on a street, you're going to use in. So if I want to say I live on Dante Street, I would say abito in via Dante. If I want to say the bar is on Michelangelo Street, I would say il bar sta in via Michelangelo. In via Michelangelo, that means on Michelangelo Street. Va bene? Sì, okay. So it's not that difficult, right? Just lots of little things to remember, little technical things about these two especially. So the next two, there's certain things to remember, but they're not going to be as many different exceptions to the rule. So these next two are di and da. So notice how they both mean from. So from, when you use di, you're going to use di when you're using the verb essere to say from. So if I ask you, di dove sei? Where are you from? That's using di because we're using sei, which is from the verb essere, and you would respond with sono di Chico, or you probably wouldn't because you're not from Chico, but that's what I would say, sono di Chico. But if any other verb that you use, you're usually going to use da when you are saying from. So if I want to say they're arriving from Venice, I would say arrivano da Venezia. Arrivano da Venezia, because we're not using the verb essere and we're saying from. Benissimo, fantastico. Are you still with me? Okay. So you're also going to use di to say belonging to indicate possession. So possession meaning that apostrophe s that we use in English to say that something belongs to somebody else. There, it doesn't exist in Italian. So instead you use di. So if I want to say Michael's book, Michael's with an apostrophe S, I would say il libro di Michele. So the noun first, then di, then who it belongs to. You can also use a possessive pronoun to say his book, il suo libro, which I have a video on that if you haven't seen it. Look for possessive pronouns. But if you're using someone's name and you're wanting to indicate possession, then you're going to use di. So di also is used with certain in certain idiomatic phrases, and I want to teach you those because they're pretty important. And I hear a lot of errors when people are trying to use these because it doesn't translate literally. So if you want to say I think so in Italian, you say penso di sì. I think of or from, yes, it doesn't translate. It's just an idiomatic expression. Penso di sì. If you want to say I think not, penso di no. If you want to say I hope so, spero di sì. If you want to say I hope not, spero di no. Ricordate. So is used with pensare, where most of the time when you use pensare, you're going to use a form of the verb called the subjunctive because it's a thought, an idea about something. It's not a concrete statement. I think that he's eating at Fabio's house tonight, something like that. You're not going to use the present tense. You're going to use the subjunctive. But if you use pensare and you keep the subject the same and you say that a certain person is thinking about doing something else, you can use a conjugation of pensare, then the preposition di, and then you can follow that with an infinitive verb, and you don't have to use the subjunctive. So if I want to say, I'm thinking about going to Italy, I would say, penso di andare in Italia. So notice how I use that in for Italia because Italia is a country, so I'm not going to use the a. Penso di andare in Italia. And it can be for any subject. So if I want to say they're thinking about studying French, I would say pensano di studiare francese. Pensano di studiare francese because the subject didn't change. And that's when you would use the subjunctive. So I'll do a video on that someday, but not now. For now, we'll stay with these prepositions. So da, let's move on to da, where I said before, well, actually I already gave that example with using da, and then I went back to di. Okay, so I said okay. Was that the first time? I think it might have been the first time. Not so bad. So da will be used to indicate that you're either going to or that you're at someone's house or business. So it's a little confusing, actually a lot confusing, because we already learned that a and in meant to or at. But you can also use da, when you say a person's name or when you say their business. For example, if I want to say I'm going to my sister's house, I can actually say that two different ways. I can use di with the possessive, the possession. I could say I'm going to the house of my sister, or I'm going to the house of Gina. But I can also use just da to say that I'm going there. So let me show you how. Vado alla casa di Gina. I am going to the house of Gina. Vado alla casa di Gina. Or I can say vado da Gina. Both of them work. But if you say vado da Gina, you don't say alla casa, because when you say da, it means casa, it means her house. So you can also use it with businesses to say if you're going to the doctor, if you're going to the dentist or the mechanic or something like that. But with those, they're going to be articulated. Da is going to be articulated with the definite article. So we'll come to those. I'll give you an example of those in the video on articulated prepositions. Va bene? Tutto a posto? Ok, l'ultima pagina, sono 3 pagine e basta, just 3 pages of prepositions. Lots of information, but not a ton of prepositions. So these I put all on the same page because they're really straightforward. There's not a lot of exceptions about when you use these and when you don't. Well, su we already saw that in could mean on, so that's a little confusing. But su just means on. But most of the time it's going to be articulated with the definite article. For example, if I want to say the notebook is on the table, I would say il quaderno è sul tavolo. Il quaderno è sul tavolo means sul is on the. That's the articulated preposition. So most of the time it will be articulated. I could say there are many people on this beach, and then we won't have to articulate it. C'è molta gente su questa spiaggia. C'è molta gente su questa spiaggia. Okay. Ah! Con means with. And with is very straightforward. It can't mean anything else, finally, right? Con is the same in Spanish. Con, with. Mangio con mia figlia. I'm eating with my daughter. Il prossimo, the next one is per. Per means for. So, il regalo è per lui. The gift is for him. Per, it can also be used to mean in order to. So I'll give you an example. In order to, and then you're going to follow that with an infinitive verb. I'm studying Italian in order to travel to Italy. That might be what you're doing right now with me. Studio italiano per viaggiare in Italia. Studio italiano per viaggiare in Italia in order to travel to Italy. Va bene? Okay, gli ultimi due, fra and tra, mean between or among. So you can choose which one you want to use. They mean the same thing. It's kind of preference, whether you say fra or whether you say tra. So I could say, la casa sta fra la mia e la sua. The house is between mine and his or hers. We can also use fra and tra with time. So if the train is leaving in 5 minutes, I could say il treno parte fra 5 minuti. Il treno parte fra 5 minuti. Again, you can use tra. I usually use fra for some reason. Basta così. So that is it for the prepositions, the simple prepositions. Look for soon another video on the articulated prepositions. My students always groan when we have that lesson on the articulated prepositions, but like with all of this stuff, it just takes time. So continuate a studiare, maybe watch the video a couple more times, take notes. The more you practice it, obviously, the easier that it's gonna get. So, buono studio, a presto, ciao.